Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. I want to tell you today about one of my favorite authors. His name is Anthony Doerr, and my favorite book by him so far is All the Light We Cannot See. And I love the book because in it he does this incredible dive into the different characters and character development, but then he also has the ability to take a way big step back and think about the big picture in which all of these different characters exist. And he paints these stunning vistas of connectedness and the way the characters are connected not only to one another, but also to the world in which they live and over the centuries. And so in one instance in the book, he's detailing a radio program that the character Werner is listening to as a child. And in that radio program, the announcer is talking about a piece of coal, and that piece of coal was once a green plant, a fern or a reed that lived maybe 1,000,000 years ago or 2,000,000 years ago or even 100 million years ago. Can you imagine that long ago? And every summer for the whole life of that plant, its leaves caught what light they could and transformed the sun's energy into itself, into bark and twigs and stem, because plants eat light, he says. And then he says, in much the way, then the plant died and fell, probably into the water, and decayed into peat. And the peat was folded into the earth for years upon years, eons, in which something like a month or a decade or even your whole life was just a puff of air or a snap of two fingers. And eventually the peat dried and became like stone, and someone dug it up, and the coal man brought it to your house, and maybe you yourself carried it to the stove, and now that sunlight from 100 million years ago is heating your home tonight. I love that way of thinking about how we are connected through this whole big picture of God's creation from then until now. And for me, the Bible has that same sense of this big whole, the big cosmic Christ, and also the intimate incarnate Christ that we met 2,000 years ago. So maybe the cosmic Christ comes to mind when you think about the Big Bang. And some theologians say that the Big Bang is the first time that we have an understanding of the cosmic Christ, the Lord over all things. And that happened tens of billions of years ago. And we also have a sense of the intimate incarnate Christ in our lives, the one who came to show us on an individual level what it looks like to live as God's child and what it looks like to serve God. So again, that big whole, and then the different parts that make up that whole. Interim ministry is a lot like that. It's taking time to think about the big whole and then all the parts that make up that big whole. Because the church is a system. And what do I mean by the church is a system? The church is made up of a whole bunch of little parts. I had to have my furnace fixed about a month ago. And when the guy came to fix the furnace, he didn't say immediately, oh, here's your problem. He said, let's talk about the system of the furnace. How often do you change your filter? Do you have animals in the house? Is there extra dander? Yes. Do you vacuum often? No. And so we diagnosed the whole system of my house. And then he was able to think more holistically about what was wrong with the furnace. And during an interim time, it's an opportunity for us to also think about the systems of the church, some of which function very well and some of which could function in healthier ways. And that's true of any church. And so to think about the system, we think about all the ways the different parts are connected. That includes our people and our committees and our ministry. How are they connected to one another? How do they influence one another? When something does go wrong, it's never the fault of one person or one committee. It's always an issue with the system. And so diagnosing the system and helping the system to be healthier is one thing that we do in an interim time, and something that we've already begun working on in many different ways. I want to close by remembering something that Paul says in Ephesians, or the author of Ephesians. The author of Ephesians prays that we will have the power to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, so that we may be filled with all the fullness of God. And for me, that's again that big image of a God who is Lord over all creation and who keeps us connected together in community. But then Paul, the author, finishes. Now to him who by the power at work within us is able to accomplish abundantly far more than all we can ask or imagine, to him be the glory in the church. And so for me, that's that sense of God working in and through each of us. And that's another opportunity we have in interim ministry, is to think about the ways that we function in the system, the gifts that we have been given for discipleship and for service in this time and in this place. And Christ makes that possible for us to think about ourselves as individuals serving God and about ourselves in a system of the church serving God. Thanks for listening today. Bye.